Welcome to Battlefront Stories. Here we bring forgotten battles, real soldier diaries, and untold stories of war back to life. Witness history, one front line at a time. Georgy Konstantinovich Zhukov is widely regarded as one of the most decisive military commanders of the Second World War. To some, he was ruthless and unforgiving. To others, he was the man who stood between the Soviet Union and total destruction. What is certain is that when Nazi Germany launched its largest and most brutal invasion, Zhukov became the central figure in the struggle that would decide the fate of Europe. His life is not just the story of a general, but the story of total war, survival, and victory at an unimaginable cost. Zhukov was born on December 1, 1896, in the small village of Strokovka near Moscow, into a poor peasant family. His childhood was shaped by hardship, physical labor, and strict discipline. These early experiences formed a man who believed in endurance, order, and absolute commitment to duty. During the First World War, he served in the Russian Imperial Army as a cavalryman, where he proved his courage in battle and earned 2 crosses of St. George for bravery. After the collapse of the Russian Empire and the rise of the Bolsheviks, Zhukov joined the Red Army during the Russian Civil War, fighting for the survival of the new Soviet state. Unlike many officers who came from aristocratic backgrounds, Zhukov's humble origins aligned perfectly with Soviet ideology. He rose steadily through the ranks, gaining a reputation as a strict but effective commander who demanded total obedience and showed little tolerance for failure. In the 1930s, as Joseph Stalin carried out massive purges of the Red Army, executing or imprisoning thousands of experienced officers, Zhukov survived. More than that, he advanced. His focus on results, discipline, and loyalty allowed him to navigate one of the most dangerous periods in Soviet military history. Zhukov first demonstrated his strategic brilliance in 1939 during the conflict with Japanese forces at Khalkhin on the Mongolian border. There he executed a perfectly coordinated double envelopment, encircling and destroying the Japanese army. The victory was decisive and had far-reaching consequences. Japan abandoned any plans to attack the Soviet Union from the east, allowing Moscow to concentrate its forces against Germany in the years to come. Zhukov's success marked him as one of the Red Army's most capable and reliable commanders. On June 22, 1941, Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in human history. The Red Army was caught unprepared, and the results were catastrophic. Entire Soviet armies were surrounded and destroyed, millions of soldiers were killed or captured, and German forces advanced deep into Soviet territory. Zhukov had been appointed chief of the general staff shortly before the invasion, and he quickly found himself confronting both military disaster and political resistance. Stalin refused to believe the scale of the collapse, but Zhukov was one of the few generals willing to speak openly, even harshly, to the Soviet leader. As German forces approached Moscow in the fall of 1941, panic spread through the Soviet leadership. At this critical moment, Zhukov was placed in charge of the defense of the capital. He organized layered defensive lines, mobilized every available reserve, and redeployed elite Siberian divisions trained for winter warfare. As temperatures dropped and German supply lines stretched thin, the momentum of the German advance slowed. In December 1941, Zhukov launched a massive counteroffensive that drove German forces back from Moscow. It was the first major defeat suffered by the Wehrmacht in the war and shattered the myth of German invincibility. Moscow held, and with it, Soviet morale was restored. Although Zhukov was not always on the front lines of every major battle, his influence over Soviet strategy was immense. At Stalingrad, he played a key role in planning Operation Uranus, the counter-offensive that targeted the weaker Axis flanks guarding the German Sixth Army. While brutal street fighting consumed the city, Zhukov helped orchestrate the encirclement that trapped more than 300,000 Axis troops. In February 1943, the surrender of the German Sixth Army marked a decisive turning point in the war. From that moment on, Germany would be fighting a losing battle on the Eastern Front. In the summer of 1943, Germany made its final attempt to regain the initiative at the Battle of Kursk. Zhukov anticipated the attack and convinced Stalin to allow the Red Army to absorb the German assault before counterattacking. The Soviets constructed enormous defensive networks filled with minefields, anti-tank weapons, and fortified positions. When German forces attacked, they were ground down by relentless resistance. After halting the offensive, Zhukov oversaw massive counterattacks that inflicted irreparable losses on the Wehrmacht. Kursk marked the end of Germany's ability to conduct large-scale offensives in the east. By 1944, the Red Army had gained overwhelming momentum. Zhukov played a central role in planning Operation Bagration, a massive offensive aimed at destroying Germany's Army Group Center. The operation was executed with speed, deception, and devastating force. Entire German formations were wiped out, and the Eastern Front collapsed. The scale of the destruction surpassed even Stalingrad, and Germany never recovered from the blow. As Soviet forces advanced into Eastern Europe and toward Germany itself, Zhukov commanded the main thrust toward Berlin. The final campaign was brutal and costly. Zhukov believed that speed and overwhelming force were essential to ending the war quickly, even if it meant enormous casualties. Critics later accused him of sacrificing too many lives, while supporters argued that his methods shortened the war and prevented even greater losses. In April 1945, the Red Army launched its final assault on Berlin. After weeks of intense street fighting, the city fell. On May 8th, Nazi Germany formally surrendered. After the war, Zhukov became one of the most famous men in the Soviet Union. He accepted Germany's surrender and led the victory parade in Moscow. However, his popularity made Stalin uneasy. Zhukov was gradually removed from positions of influence and sent away from the center of power. Only after Stalin's death did he briefly return, serving as Minister of Defense before being removed once again for his independence and influence. Georgy Zhukov died in 1974, leaving behind a legacy that remains deeply complex. He was not a man of mercy, nor was he a politician driven by ideology. He was a soldier forged by total war, a commander who believed victory was the only acceptable outcome. Without Zhukov, the Soviet Union might not have survived the German invasion. Without Zhukov, the road to Berlin would have been longer, bloodier, and far more uncertain. He was the general who broke Hitler's army and helped shape the course of the 20th century. This is just one side of the war. For more, check out Battlefront stories and make sure to like the video and subscribe for upcoming episodes.